What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. So recently, Shawn Marion, former NBA player, who had his best seasons with the Phoenix Suns, but I believe he also played with the Mavericks and the Cavaliers, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, he may have played a season with the Raptors. I might be wrong with that. But anyway, I know he played with the Mavericks and Cavaliers. But anyway, Shawn Marion said recently that he feels that he should have won the 2005 Defensive Player of the Year award over Ben Wallace. Of course, Ben Wallace was, I would say from 2002 to 2006, 7, somewhere in that time frame, he was the premier defensive player in the NBA. And we saw what he did to Shaquille O'Neal in the 2004 NBA Finals. Now, Shaq, of course, was a little bit past his prime, a little bit hobbled, but still, he did a good job. He did the best job that I've seen of anybody outside of Dennis Rodman, slowing down the big man, the big diesel. Shawn Marion felt that he should have won that award. He said recently, quote, "I should have been Defensive Player of the Year that year. I went from wing playing to guarding the post player the whole year and did it very well. For me to get no recognition for that, it was very disheartening." Now, I'm going to say this. The reason why I didn't make his cap super duper colossally huge is because he has a point about not having gotten enough credit for what he did. He did, because he really was the defensive anchor for that team. Because we all know how poor a defender Steve Nash was. And Shawn Marion was doing a lot on the defensive end. He was, generally speaking, every night guarding the other team's best offensive player. Whether that's a perimeter guy, whether it's a Gilbert Arenas in that era, or whether you're talking about a Jermaine O'Neal before the injuries. He was guarding the other team's best player and usually doing a really good job of it. You know what I'm saying? Getting steals, shot blocking, just regular old positional great defense, pressure defense, ball denial. He was doing all. He was. And he should get more credit. He's not thought of as a good defensive player, and he was. Matter of fact, let's look at that particular season with Shawn Marion. I mean, all his prime years were great. But that year, he averaged 18 points, 10.5 rebounds, 1.8 assists, 1.9 steals, 1.4 blocks, on 47.6% shooting from the floor, 33.4% from three-point range, and 83.3% from the foul line. I want to look at some advanced metrics. And that year, he was responsible for 12.5 win shares. I'm just looking at that stat. He had 7.3 offensive win shares credited to him, 5.2 defensive win shares, and a win share per 48-minute ratio of 0.191. So, I mean, he was a very underrated player. His PER rating that year was 21.7, which is indicative of an all-star level player. Ben Wallace, let's look at his resume first. All right. NBA champion, 2004. Four-time NBA All-Star between 2002, 2003, and 2005, 2006 seasons. Three times All-NBA second team. Two times All-NBA third team. The meat of the coconut. Four-time Defensive Player of the Year winner. 2001, 2002, 2002, 2003, 2005, 2005, 2005, 2006. And the one year he didn't get it, 2003, 2004, I think that's the year it went to Arnold Test. You could argue that Ben Wallace should have won it that year. Now, I will say this to be fair. 2005, 2006, the last year Ben Wallace got it, I think they won 64 games that year. And I think Flip Saunders was the coach, wasn't he then? By then? But anyway, you can make an argument that maybe it could have went to Bruce Bowen. Maybe. Okay. 5 times NBA All Defensive First Team, All NBA Defensive Second Team 2007, 2-time rebounding leader, led league in blocks 2001, 2002, number 3 retired by the Detroit Pistons. Old Ben Wallace. Virginia Union's finest. All right, so Ben Wallace, 2004-2005 season. In 74 games played, Ben Wallace averaged 9.7 points, 12.2 rebounds, 1.7 assists, 1.4 steals, 2.4 blocks. Okay. Was not an offensive player. Only shot 45% from the floor. Only 43% from the foul line. Offense was not his forte. His forte was defense. 8.5 win shares that year. 1.8 offensive rebound. 1.8 offensive win shares, but led the league with 6.7 defensive win shares. Win share point 48 ratio, win share point 40 per 48 minute ratio of 0.153. Okay, 26.5 defensive rebounding percentage rate. Total rebounding rate of 19.8. Look, man, I said the numbers and all that. The eye test tells you that Ben Wallace should have won that award. Ben Wallace was the premier defender in the NBA in that time period. Okay. This is when you still had legitimate big men in the NBA. Right? This is right before they changed the rules. This is when you still had a league with big men. When I say big men, I'm talking about centers and power forwards. You still had Shaq. You still had Mutombo, even though he was getting older. You had Yao Ming. You had Jermaine O'Neal. You had Chris Webber, though he was past his prime. You had a Dirk Nowitzki, who kind of was a little bit more mid-range perimeter, but, whatever. At times, he would guard him. You know what I'm saying? You had, who else? A young Dwight Howard. Trying to think. You had other players, too. Just can't think off the top of my head. But Lonzo Moore was kind of downhill, but you had Mourning. There were other big men. I just can't think off the top of my head right now. But you had other big men, in particular power forwards, who Ben Wallace had to guard on a regular basis. And more than just that, man, more than just the fact that Ben Wallace was not just a guy, traditional low post defender, but he can guard outside on the margins. You know what I'm saying? He had the speed to roll around the paint and get deflections. And, he had steals and shot blocking. And, I won't know driving in the paint. And, that LeBron crap that he, they had LeBron burrows to the basket. You're not doing it against Ben Wallace. Nope. That's why LeBron's first 2 years only shot 45% from the floor, because he won't get in all those easy buckets around the perimeter. You know what I'm saying? And not even just that, Ben Wallace changed the culture of the Detroit Pistons. Rip Hamilton was not known as a defensive player coming out of UConn. Tayshaun Prince, who made himself and worked himself into a really good defensive player, was not noticed for his defense when he first came in the NBA. Chauncey Billups, all these guys, even Rasheed, they weren't really known for defense. Ben Wallace implanted that and changed that team's identity. So while the media focused a little bit more on Rasheed Wallace and, focused on Mr. Big Shot, as they called Chauncey Billups, the unsung hero, the leader of that team, was Big Ben Wallace. And there's a reason why when he left, they started going downhill. They lost a lot when he left. Okay? Ben Wallace was that dude. We saw in that game when we had the Malice at the Palace, as big and strong and as fearless as Ron Artest was. He didn't want any parts of Ben Wallace. None. This is the same dude, Ron Artest, that broke Michael Jordan's ribs. You saw when he pushed Ron Artest flew back. Goddamn, he flew back like he got shot, like in one of them 80s movies when a dude gets shot, he fly back and fly in the glass. That's how goddamn Ron Artest was flying back, man. Nah, I'm sorry, bro, but it's cap. You should not have and that's the thing too. It'd be one thing if this is why I super cap with these dudes, man. Why is it that you think you should have won something? Like in this situation, if Shawn Marion has said, look, when I was playing with the Phoenix Suns, I think I just didn't get the credit I deserved, as far as what I was doing out there on the court. I didn't really get a lot of attention, because look, the Phoenix Suns, their identity was never on defense. It was always Mike D'Antoni, Steve Nash, offense. So, yeah, he didn't get the credit he deserved. I agree with that. But if he had just said, look, I should have got more credit, I should have been in the conversation with the better defensive players in the NBA, I ain't going to argue with that. But you should have won Defensive Player of the Year? Come on, man. Fuck you talking about?